Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, we start with the story of the war between the Pawnee and the Kansa Indian tribes. Then we take another look at the partial skeleton found in 1940 that is thought to be that of Amelia Earhart. Next, enjoy a poem from Ron Wilson, and we'll end with Sarah Josepha Hale, the woman who passionately lobbied to have Thanksgiving recognized as a national holiday. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. It's Wednesday, only 2 days to the weekend. I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And this is Around Kansas. Good morning.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Turkey season. I was going to do a story on turkey season, and then I got sidelined with something else, some jackrabbits. We're going to talk about jackrabbits in one of the shows coming up. Do you know when the season for jackrabbits starts, Frank?
I have no idea.
January 1. Do you know when it ends?
No.
December 31st. It is jackrabbit season all year long.
Okay.
All right, Frank, we got a lot of stuff coming up.
Oh, okay.
We are, they are celebrating or just celebrated the Year of the Cowgirl out in Dodge City, the Kansas Cowboy Hall of Fame, except they inducted all cowgirls this time. So next week we'll have a segment talking about who this year's inductees are or were. That's very, very exciting. And we've got screenings of the Home on the Range documentary coming up. So that will be in January. We'll keep you up to date as they come on. But the first one that we know of is January 12th at the Orpheum Theater in Wichita. So I was in Hollywood. Yep. Oh my gosh. So it's been a long time since I'd been to Southern California.
Can I touch you?
Yeah, really. I met some of the coolest people. Talented people. Oh my God, Frank. What young people are doing. And then you see I was actually out there to pitch a movie idea from a book that a friend had written, and then got to pitch some of my own ideas. I got ideas, people. But seeing what so many of the young people had come up with, their ideas and their talent and their ability and how hard they work, was so inspiring. So I get off the plane and I call Uber to come pick me up. So it's a 2-hour drive. You know, of course, it's only 10 minutes, but not really. It was actually up in Woodland Hills. So this Armenian cab driver or Uber driver, wonderful gentleman. And 2 hours, we're best friends by the time we get there. So I'm telling him about living in Kansas. He's never been to Kansas. And, of course, western Kansas is even a little different from right here. So I'm telling him about it. And as I would tell him things, he'd just turn and look at me, like, really? And I'm, exactly, we're on the freeway. And he's like, you got to be kidding. So I was talking about, like, dirt roads. What's wrong with you people, And I'm like, I kind of like it. It keeps the traffic down a little bit, yeah. But it was hilarious. And this guy was like, really? And we were talking about hunting. And I'm like, we got pheasants in the yard. You got pheasants in the yard? I mean, it was like everything I said, it was like it. And he's lived all over Europe and, in a couple of places in the U.S. And he was just like, just couldn't imagine western Kansas. So, yep, I invited him to come out and see for himself what it was like.
85 miles an hour. You did what?
Exactly. I mean, everything. It was so funny. And I'm like, we've got horses and mules. Like, it was a trip. It was really a trip.
Well, we're glad you're back safely.
Thank you. I was so glad to be back. So glad to be back. It was a nice place to visit, but much rather live here.
Oh, my.
We got some great stories. Stay with us.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Lecompton. The name was splashed across newspapers throughout America and Europe. It was debated in the halls of Congress. Lecompton interprets its unique territorial history with 2 museums and other sites. Events throughout the year celebrate history and community. Visit the Territorial Capitol Museum, where more than 70 trees are displayed with thousands of antique and vintage ornaments, and be sure to stop in the gift shops in both Lecompton museums. Spend the day in historic Lecompton, shopping, eating, savoring the rich history.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. And we're back. We were talking about Hollywood, but the only thing going through my head is, do you know the way to San Jose? I don't know if you know that song about.
And what has that got to do with Hollywood?
Because, all of those people that go there expecting to be stars in a week and... you know the song?
Yeah, I do.
Stars that never were are parking cars and pumping gas.
Yeah,
you know.
And they still are working on things, which and all this has totally nothing to do with our next story, except one of the actors that I met, Don Reed, who used to be in Dynasty and all kinds of stuff, Marsha's crush, the dentist. So we're visiting, and he loves history and history of the West. And I told him I was on the Gunslinger series, and he was like, wow, he was all excited about that. And we get to talking about Buffalo Bill. He said, Buffalo Bill's my great-great-uncle. And I said, you're kidding. So I'm sending Don, this stuff is on the way, all this information about his great-great-uncle that he didn't know. And I'm like, being Buffalo Bill's press agent, I was spreading the word. But before Buffalo Bill was here, before Buffalo Bill's out fighting with the Indians, we've got a lot of tribes in Kansas that are actually fighting each other. And that's what this first segment is about. It's about the relationship between the Kaw, or the Kansa, and the Pawnee. And I think this stuff is pretty cool. Let's see what you think.
It took us a long time to get there, but...
Round and around and around. On his way west in 1842, explorer John C. Fremont encountered a cluster of burned and blackened lodges scattered along the east bank of the Vermilion River. The destruction was evidence of a long and often bloody war between the Pawnee and the Kaw, or Kansa. The Kansas State Historical Society posted the account online at Kansapedia, a treasure trove of history on the web. The village observed by Fremont was situated near present-day Bellevue. The abandoned Kansa village had been attacked and burned earlier that spring by the Pawnees. The burning of the village was in retaliation for a massacre of Pawnees perpetrated by Kansa warriors in December 1840. 65 Kansa warriors had surprised a Pawnee camp whose warriors had left on a buffalo hunt. The Kansa killed more than 70 people, mostly women and children, and captured 11. The two tribes had been enemies longer than anyone could remember. From the 1500s, if not earlier, the Pawnees had lived and hunted in present-day Nebraska and Kansas. By 1700, the Kansa had immigrated from the Ohio River Valley and established a village on the west bank of the Missouri River in present Doniphan County. By 1840, the Kansas were living in 3 villages, the Vermilion River Village and 2 others near present-day Topeka. The Pawnees were the dominant power of the Central Plains by the 1800s. Their hunting grounds covered much of the High Plains, and this meant conflict with almost every other Plains tribe, including the Kansa. The arrival of Euro-Americans brought the fur trade to the Plains, and competition between the tribes for the harvest of pelts became fierce. By the late 1700s, Pawnee and Kansa warriors had become expert horsemen and were better able to travel long distances to raid each other. Most of these raids were essentially horse-stealing expeditions, but some escalated into violent encounters. The U.S. government frequently attempted to arrange truces between the Pawnees and the Kansas, But these efforts met with little success. In 1830, pressure from the Kansa and their Osage allies forced the one band to abandon its village in present Republic County and to rejoin the other Pawnee bands to the north in the Platte River Valley. By the 1870s, however, both the Pawnees and the Kansa were reeling from poverty, disease, and the loss of their lands. In June 1872, a large band of Pawnees traveled from their Nebraska reservation to smoke the pipe with the Kansa on their Council Grove reservation. The week-long celebration concluded with an exchange of gifts and expressions of goodwill between the ancient enemies. At long last, the Pawnees and the Kansa were at peace.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways, of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
Buffalo Bill Cody earned his legendary title in Oakley. Bring the family and come celebrate Oakley's pioneering history and unique geography at two sites, the Buffalo Bill Cultural Center and the Fick Fossil Museum. Cody's statue marks his achievements and welcomes visitors to the Cultural Center. The Fick Fossil Museum houses world-class fossils and artifacts. You'll find Oakley at the hub of U.S. Highways 83 and 40 and I-70. Stop for the legend. Stay for the day. Discover Oakley.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. And we're back again. So
you've got a really cool story coming up, and
yes.
Everybody loves, of course, Amelia Earhart, one of the great mysteries of not just American history, but the world. Her story just fascinated the world.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It so many times somebody says, "We found the plane. We found," and what island she might have been on, and it's a great mystery, and I don't think we're ever really gonna know.
But with your story, if I was reading it, we might be a little bit closer.
Possibly.
And the investigations, and your story highlights this technology. As technology becomes more sophisticated, there are more ways to look at the same body of evidence that people have had just sitting around for years. And so that's one of the fascinating things to me as a historian, because that's happened with Civil War history, with all kinds of things. With the new technology and new scientific advances, you can apply those. Well, you did the segment on the FBI lab here on Washburn campus.
Forensic science is unbelievable now. And with that, I mean, that's in the story. I'm not going to give away the story, but they're using forensic science now to see if maybe what they have found could be Amelia Earhart remains.
So isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. Yeah.
And that's a great tool for getting kids involved in science and history too. It really is. So, I think this is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Good job, Frank. Let's take a look.
There's a newly discovered similarity between Amelia Earhart and the castaway whose partial skeleton was found at Nikamoro in 1940, according to a release from the Earhart Project. The bones suspected by their discoverer of being Earhart's were dismissed by British authorities after a doctor judged them to be male. The bones were subsequently lost and the entire incident forgotten until the Earhart Project discovered the original British files in 1998. The file included the skeletal measurements the doctor made. An evaluation of those measurements by forensic anthropologists led to the conclusion that they were consistent with a female of Earhart's height and ethnic origin. That was 18 years ago. Recently, in preparing an updated evaluation of the bone measurements, one of the doctors noticed a peculiarity among the arm bones. The forearm was the proportionately longer bone of the arm. Statistically, women born in the late 19th century had an average radius to humerus ratio of 0.73. In other words, if the castaway was a middle-aged, ethnically European woman, she had forearms considerably longer than average. Researchers wondered if Amelia may have had similarly longer than average forearms. To answer that question, we called a forensic imaging specialist, Jeff Glickman. Selecting an historical photo of Amelia, where her bare arms were clearly visible, and working with Dr. Richard Jans to identify the correct points on the shoulder, elbow, and wrist for comparing bone length, Jeff found that Earhart's humerus to radius ratio was 0.76, virtually identical to the castaway's. The match does not, of course, prove that the castaway was Amelia Earhart, but it is a significant new data point that tips the scales further in that direction. Amelia was born in Atchison at her grandparents' home in 1897. She and her navigator disappeared while attempting to circle the globe in 1937.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses and rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months, and I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously.
Fort Wallace stood on the frontier in the midst of the Plains Indians Wars on a major stage route and rail line. Beside the 1865 stagecoach station, a modern museum with thousands of artifacts tell that story, like the fossil of a 40-foot plesiosaur is suspended from the ceiling. Located on Highway 40 midway between Hayes and Colorado Springs, the Fort Wallace Museum is as welcome a sight today as the fort itself in the 1860s. Discover the fightingest sport in the West. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Find out more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
You wouldn't have a Roy Rogers without a trigger. You wouldn't have a Lone Ranger without silver. And in the history of the cowboy, the horse was the essential partner. This poem is entitled, Here's to the Horse. The history of the West from earliest time is based on the wonderful species equine. The animal of which I speak, of course, is that wonderful critter we call the horse. Without the horse, how would life be changed for the Plains Indian or the cowboy on the range? The horse is more than a hard-working steed. He's a faithful companion, a quiet friend indeed. A trained horse with a good rider at a rodeo makes a team that puts on a great show. There's nothing better than setting a saddle on a trail ride or gathering cattle. So let's all give thanks for this discourse for the wonderful critter we call the horse. Happy trails.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter. And here we are again. You know, Paul Harvey had another show later on in his career, and it was called The Rest of the Story. And it was usually something unusual about something that you thought you knew. And then, of course, it was like, that's the rest of the story.
I love those segments.
Yeah.
I bought the book. He actually published, I don't know, a couple of hundred of them maybe, and I bought that book. I love it. Some of the best research and most interesting stories. One of my favorites was on Patrick Henry, because I grew up in Virginia, and of course I lived in Patrick County, and I worshipped Patrick Henry, the voice of the rebellion. And his wife was insane, and rather than put her in an asylum, he locked her in the basement because it was more humane. And it just breaks your... And here's the man, give me liberty or give me death. And it's just heartbreaking on so many levels.
No, I didn't know that.
I know, but that's...
Oh, my.
Oh, honey, I'm so full of this useless stuff. But, yeah.
That is the rest of the story.
Yeah, really.
So...
And what were you saying? Back to what you were saying, Frank.
Well, and the only reason I bring that up is because you've got a story about Thanksgiving.
And Thanksgiving.
And it's the rest of the story.
And Thanksgiving, of course, is a Yankee holiday, and in the South, it wasn't even recognized for a long time because Abraham Lincoln is one that made it an official holiday. And, you know, by the time I grew up, thank goodness, some of the animosity had had gone down, and, you know, wasn't quite so much, and we learned the Pilgrim story and all that good stuff. But, yeah, it was not as big a holiday in the South for a few years. So
instead of turkey, we're going to have possum and grits.
What's wrong with that? When her husband died suddenly in 1822, Sarah Josepha Hale found herself and her 5 children in dire need of a steady income. Friends backed the anonymous publication of a collection of her poetry, and she began to submit stories and poems to literary magazines. Sarah quickly gained the attention and respect of editors of the leading periodicals. Though a prolific writer, she is most remembered for Mary Had a Little Lamb. Asked by a Boston publishing firm to edit the first American magazine written for women, Sarah moved her family from New Hampshire to Boston in 1828. She applied scrupulous editorial standards to the ladies' magazine, accepting only original material and soliciting female writers. When Louis Godey purchased the magazine, she became the editor of Godey's Ladies' Book. She moved to Philadelphia and made Godey's the leading American women's literary and fashion periodical for the following 4 decades. Though not a supporter of women's suffrage because of the corrupting nature of politics, she consistently advocated education, exercise, property rights, and sensible fashion for women. She ardently lobbied to have Thanksgiving recognized as a national holiday. It had been regularly celebrated by different parts of the country, but not uniformly. During the Civil War, Sarah wrote to President Abraham Lincoln, and he delivered. In October 1863, Lincoln declared, "I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving, and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens." Sarah passed away at the age of 89, and her body rests in Philadelphia's Laurel Hill Cemetery. She is certainly not forgotten, and Carol Lieberman of the Union League Civil War Roundtable portrays Sarah at numerous events, including the recent unveiling of an historical marker in her honor. As you sit down to your turkey dinner, sing a round of Mary Had a Little Lamb and toast the remarkable widow, Sarah Josepha Hale.
That's it. We're done for today. I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And we'll see you somewhere around Kansas. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy Street.